Alrighty, good morning to those in the Philippines or really just anywhere across the globe. We are going to be discussing mainly Invest 96W, which could be named Fengshen and eventually Ramil. Ramil. Hold on, sorry, let me just double check that pronunciation.
Ramil.
Ramil, okay. Which that storm could threaten the Philippines as even a potential typhoon. So we will get into that just in a moment. First, right now I'm just sharing the stream and we will get right into it. If you have any questions about the storm, you can always ask that in the chat and I will gladly answer that towards the later part of the stream. This will be a relatively short stream because we are only code yellow, but we will likely have more streams later down the road going more in depth. So let me just double check everything is posted. It seems like we are good to go. And I can see Typhoon Lover in the chat. Hello, how are you doing? Okay, so let's discuss the broad overview of tropics first, since there's a lot going on all across the globe. Nearly every basin has something going on. In the North Atlantic, we have the remnants of Lorenzo, which have just opened up into a trough, expected to meander towards the northeast and dissipate. We also have an area of interest here with a 10% chance of development, mainly in the next 2 to 4 days, maybe 1.5 to 3.5 days. Could see something subtropical developing in between Bermuda and Newfoundland. We also have a tropical wave here moving to the west, which will have a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days in the eastern half of the Caribbean, which could pose a threat to Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the Lesser Antilles. We also have Invest 91E, which is off the coast of Mexico there, with a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance over the next 7 days. We also have the remnants of Nacri, which are moving into the central Pacific and are going to be moving towards Canada and the northwestern United States as a powerful post-tropical system. In the Western Pacific, we of course have Invest 96W here with a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance over the next 7 days as that meanders towards the Philippines and then eventually onto the South China Sea. In the North Indian Ocean, specifically the Arabian Sea, we have an area of interest here with a 30% chance of development. In the Bay of Bengal, we have one with a 20% chance. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, we have an area of low pressure here, which let me just verify what the name of that is. It is Invest 94S now, giving it a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance over the next 7 days. Behind that, there will be another area of interest here with a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. Again, we are currently code yellow, and that is mainly for 96W, and that is why we're doing this update. So, looking at the visible satellite imagery here, we can see a lot of convection has been blowing up recently, and we can see hints of what could be a little bit of a center, but the convection has stopped firing. But overall, this is just a broad tropical wave right in here. Looking at infrared, we can see those cloud tops there bursting, and new burst there down to the south of the center. But this was the main burst we were looking before, seeing if there was any tropical cyclone genesis, seeing if it was going to become a tropical system soon. But overall, this is a very healthy system. A lot of convection blowing up, so we could see a tropical cyclone over the next 48 hours. Around a 50-50 shot of that. Alright, now looking at its environment here, mainly the waters. Waters are expected to be very warm right now, as waters will be around 30 degrees Celsius, and a lot of pockets of 30 degrees Celsius, but at least 29 Celsius, so very favorable in terms of waters. Now I do want to discuss its distance right now from certain areas here. Let's see if this will work. Yes, kilometers. It is roughly around 1,300 kilometers away from the central Philippines and roughly around 1,700 kilometers away from Manila, and roughly around 1,600 kilometers away from Isabela province in the Philippines, which could see a landfall. Really anywhere along the coast of Luzon could see a landfall, the east coast of Luzon. I will touch on this later after the models. Now let's take a look at some of the model runs here. This is the American run, the latest American run. Whoops, is this working? Yes. Does not develop it into a tropical cyclone until roughly 24 hours before it reaches the Philippines. Has it moving through the Luzon Strait as a possible typhoon before it meanders to the southwest towards Vietnam. Beyond that, just a bunch of low pressure areas. The Canadian model here, let's see what this wants, does have it forming as a broad tropical cyclone making landfall in the Philippines, and it meanders near Hainan Island and eventually Vietnam as a weak tropical cyclone. The European run, let's see what this wants. It does want it to become a tropical cyclone before making landfall, potentially in northeastern, I believe that is going to be Cagayan, and then the Babuan Islands as a tropical storm before intensifying into a typhoon in the South China Sea, and that's as far as the model run goes. Let's pull up an earlier one, see if it's fairly similar. And it meanders to the southwest there, just south of Hainan Island, and makes landfall in Vietnam. The German run here, this is the 18Z one, does have it becoming a tropical cyclone making landfall near Cagayan and the Babuan Islands before entering the South China Sea, becomes a typhoon, and I believe it's going to be similar to the European run here, where it meanders to the southwest, and towards Vietnam. Now let's take a look at some of these ensemble members. These are the European ensembles here. Does have it roughly 50-50 chance of if it makes landfall in Luzon or not. Around half of them move it just to the north and impact the Babuan Islands and the Batanes Islands instead. Some of those members impact Taiwan. But generally the system will be entering the South China Sea and beginning to meander to the southwest. And we can see that on here. I don't think we can pull up any specifics. Nope, but we can see generally where the ensembles take the system here. Okay, do the drawing tools not want to work? Okay, there we go. So meanders generally towards the northern portions of Luzon before then eventually curving to the south afterwards. Now, if we take a look at some of the American ensembles here, don't really show much development before it reaches the Philippines, but it does show a little bit more development in the South China Sea. And on here we can see the members right on here generally going towards Luzon and then making that curve towards the south. Now I do want to touch on the European AI model, what it wants. Here if we take a look at the Western Pacific here, and we go to timing right now. So this would be Thursday morning for you all in the Philippines. This would be Thursday night. Becoming a little bit better defined there. This would be Friday morning, potentially already a tropical cyclone on the European run, and this would be Friday nights, becoming generally more organized, but still a broad system. And by around Saturday morning for you all, it looks like it becomes a tropical cyclone near southeastern Luzon. And on Saturday night, it's nearly clipping southeastern Luzon. And it looks like by Sunday morning for you all in the Philippines, it's nearing a landfall somewhere in northern / central Luzon. Makes landfall there Sunday evening, and then by Sunday night, it enters the South China Sea still as a tropical cyclone. And then going forward in time, meanders just to the southwest and dissipates before reaching Vietnam. So that's the timing on that model. And now let's take a look at some of the impacts here that the models want. So let's start out with winds in terms of wind accumulation over the next 5 days or so. Seeing how bad it wants it here. This is from the European run, the most recent one of that. Doesn't show a whole lot happening for parts of the northern Philippines, at least on this model run, keeping it generally below 60 kilometers an hour for the northern portions of the Philippines, but the Babuan Islands still up to around 70 kilometers an hour, and then the Batanes Islands on this run gets up to around 80 kilometers an hour. Parts of Taiwan, they're getting around 60 to 70 kilometers an hour, and along the west coast, it's going to be very gusty, it appears, up to 100 kilometers an hour. Some of those islands up to 110, up to 120 kilometer an hour winds. And then out to sea in the South China Sea, there are wind gusts of up to 170 kilometers an hour. But areas just along the coast of, I believe that's Guangdong province, still up to around 90 kilometer an hour wind gusts. Some areas nearing 100 kilometers an hour. Hong Kong gets at around 70 kilometers an hour. Now again, this is the next 5 days. Beyond that, it gets a little bit more uncertain there, but sticking to the 5-day forecast here. Looking at the American run, stays fairly consistent there with the Babuan Islands getting winds of up to 80 to 90 kilometer an hour winds, and the Batanes Islands getting up to 100 kilometer an hour winds. The west coast of Taiwan gets up to 100 kilometers an hour, and some of these islands up to 120 kilometer an hour winds. Nothing really impacting Hong Kong too severely. And the German run here over the next 5 days, still some areas in the Cagayan region could get up to 80 kilometer an hour winds, but generally stays south of Hong Kong here with their winds getting up to 60 to 70 kilometer an hour winds. So winds aren't really too much of a concern on these model runs, but they may be underdoing some of it. So these winds could be a bit stronger. We'll have a better idea over the coming day or two. Now let's look at some of these rainfall totals over the next 5 days. This is from the European run, starting off with Metro Manila, getting up to, let's go millimeters, up to around 20 millimeters of rain. Parts of Cagayan there could get up to 100 millimeters of rain. The Babuan Islands get accumulations of up to 20 millimeters, excuse me. And the Batanes Islands here gets up to 190 millimeters. Eastern Taiwan could see a fair amount of rain from this, anywhere from 180 to 380 millimeters of rain. And just offshore in the South China Sea, rainfall totals of up to 700 millimeters are possible, because it will slow down as it makes that curve to the southwest, at least on some of these model runs. Now, the American run here over the next 5 days, northeastern Cagayan, including Santa Ana, gets accumulations of up to 160 millimeters. The Babuan Islands around 170 to 200 millimeters, and that also goes for the Batanes Islands. Now, eastern Taiwan on this scenario is a lot more bullish here, with rainfall totals up to 300, even 500 millimeters of rain will be possible in those mountainous terrains of eastern Taiwan as that onshore flow happens with the winds. With all the rain there going up the upslope on those mountains. But generally in the South China Sea, not as much there. Nothing really expected for China. Now, the German run, however, does show lower rainfall rates in some areas here. Parts of, I don't know where that is. That's near, okay, I don't know which province this is, but up to 160 millimeters near Santiago, and northeastern or eastern Cagayan, 160 millimeters. Babuan Islands gets lower totals here, up to 80 millimeters, and the Batanes Islands up to 180 millimeters of rain. Eastern Taiwan, southeastern Taiwan gets a little bit lower totals, but northeastern Taiwan up to 170 millimeters of rain. Nothing really in China over the next 5 days, thankfully. And looking at the most recent Pagasa update, they have highlighted it as a low pressure area 10E with a high chance of development over the next 24 hours. And of course, it will be entering the Philippine Area of Responsibility likely within the next 24 hours. Maybe even 12 hours. So lastly, I want to touch on the Google AI Ensembles, what they want out of the system. Let me just get it like that, and then I will highlight all of them. So here we go. Does everything form it? Yes, every single Ensemble member forms the system. So we're fairly confident that this will become a tropical cyclone. So this would be right around now. So this is Thursday morning for y'all. This would be Thursday nights, Friday morning, Friday nights. Saturday morning looks like it's becoming a tropical cyclone by that point, or a tropical storm. A minimal tropical storm on Friday, or this would be, let's see, Saturday morning for you all in the Philippines there. You can see there's some uncertainty there. Is it near the Visayas region? Let me just make sure I spelled that right. Visayas. Hold on, sorry about that. Okay, Visayas, yep, alright. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Just trying to make sure I'm pronouncing right.
Visayas.
Okay, Visayas region. That's near Samar Islands. But then some of these Ensemble members have it a little bit more to the north. Not really impacting anywhere. Then if we go forward in time even more, this would be now Saturday night. You can see some of those members have it making landfall. This one particular as a typhoon already. So we could be seeing a typhoon landfall as early as Saturday night. Although some of the general consensus is a moderate tropical storm at that point. And then going forward in time, this would be Saturday. Let's see, that would be Saturday nights. This is overnight, and this would be Sunday morning for you all in the Philippines. By the time you're waking up, it could be a high-end severe tropical storm or already a typhoon. Some of these members, though, do show Category 2 or even Category 3 or 4 out of it, which is fairly interesting to see. Out of those members, only around 12 of them have it becoming a typhoon. So that'd be around a 1 in 4 chance of it becoming a typhoon, looks like, on here. Then it moves across the Philippines, and by Sunday nights, it's entering the South China Sea, still delivering impacts to the western portions of Luzon. And then it meanders near Hainan Island. The earliest landfall there looks to be around Tuesday evening into Tuesday night, although it looks to make its closest approach sometime on Wednesday night, overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Then it weakens to a remnant low or tropical depression by the time it nears Vietnam. So this is the general consensus as to where it's expected to go. Overall, though, the roughly peak intensity there looks to be around, how many of them want it becoming a typhoon? Looks like 33 of those members, so around a 2/3 chance that it becomes a typhoon in the South China Sea. So a decent chance that it will become a typhoon overall, at least once throughout its lifetime. Alright, let's see here. Alright, I'll answer a couple questions here. Anything about this? Thank you guys for clicking on the notification. Typhoon Lover, I hope you get better. Yes, Ramil. Alright. 96W going to be a Category 5? No, I don't really think that that's expected at all by any of these members. No, only like 1 or 2 show Category 4 at max, so I doubt it very heavily that this will become a... Let me see, is this... It might be only one member showing a Category 4 twice, but I don't really expect a Category 5 out of this. I don't think it's likely. I can pull up its environment, what it's expected to be in. Now, I think the upper level pattern is... It's not exactly centered with that upper level anticyclone here. So it's not really in that perfect patch of low wind shear. So it's kind of on the western side of it, so it's not perfect. It does get a lot better, it appears, when it enters the, let's see here, when it enters the South China Sea. Looks like there's 2 upper-level anticyclones by that point, and then it kind of gets torn apart by the time it enters or nears Vietnam. I believe that's all shear that's causing that. I can pull that up better here. Yep, so it does decent by the time it enters or nears the Philippines, but it could be a lot better. And of course, by the time it meanders near Vietnam, gets torn apart there. Oops, sorry about that. Let me just make sure that that stops. Alright, so it looks like the environment will be a little bit more favorable by the time it nears the Philippines, those areas, and in the South China Sea. Right now it's kind of favorable. So I don't really think Category 5 is going to happen out of this. It's not pristine. Yep, another one for Santa Ana. Yes, 94S could become a tropical cyclone. Now, that could threaten Madagascar and those areas. If I pull up that here, there could be 4 tropical cyclones that try and develop over the next 10 days or so. But yeah, the system could be nearing Madagascar over the next 10 days or so. European AI model thinks so as a possible tropical cyclone. And then the Comoros Islands, I believe that's what those are near there. And then on to, I believe that's Tanzania maybe? I am not sure. I will check that out. Yeah, Tanzania. Nice. Okay, I know my geography somewhat. And then other areas could see impacts as well. Like this area impacts, okay, I don't know what country that is. Is it Yemen? No, that is going to be Somalia. Whoops, excuse me. And then the other one would be impacting eastern India, looks like, over the next 10 days or so. A little bit too far out for that other signal there. But yeah, could see more impacts across the globe. What What does everyone think about the Atlantic? If I pull that up, I haven't really checked what the Euro AI wants on it. Doesn't really want anything to form out of that. Not really seeing anything too big with the subtropical signal. I don't know. I can't really tell with this. Yeah, it's too low resolution to really handle it. Now the Caribbean signal, I'm not sure. It doesn't want anything out of that. Google may want something. Curious what it wants out of 94S, I believe it was. And not really impacting Madagascar. Some of those members do. Even one of them potentially has up to a Category 2. Yeah, it's mainly going to be that system in the Bay of Bengal. And lastly, I will cover 91E, which the European AI model does not really like at all. Does become a brief tropical cyclone potentially, but then meanders westwards. The Google AI ensembles have been a little bit more bullish on it. Right there, meanders to the north, nears the coast of Mexico. One of them has it becoming a Category 4, looks like, but then that meanders out to sea most likely. So it could get close to Acapulco and parts of the southern coast of Mexico, but afterwards maybe impacts Baja California Sur, but not really anything big. And then after that, things look to quiet down. Atlantic, that's going to be a doozy to try to forecast in the longer range. We'll see. But yeah, mid to late October, or like later October, looks to be a little bit active in the Caribbean potentially. And yeah, that about does it. So for the next update on this signal, since we're code yellow, that would mean updates every 8 days or so, but this code will likely increase. Just due to the fact it's getting closer, it will likely become a tropical cyclone soon. So I believe maybe even within the next, let me see, yeah, maybe seeing one, probably, because it will probably get up to code red, so that would mean every 2 days, so that means probably in 2 days from now, I'll do an update as it's probably striking the Philippines. Unless it's making landfall as a typhoon, then I'll be for sure be covering that. Right, that about does it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update, which will likely be on, this would be Sunday morning for you all in the Philippines. So I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.